When you think of Mr. Darcy, whose face comes to mind? For many of us, it is Colin Firth. He is the brooding, aristocratic hero of the 1995 BBC Pride and Prejudice, striding through Pemberley in a soaking white shirt, a single look enough to melt a million hearts. But his claim to the role does not stop there, because just a few years later he returned as Darcy again, this time as Mark Darcy in Bridget Jones's Diary, a modern retelling with cigarettes, ugly Christmas sweaters, and heartbreak in the middle of London. Same soul, new century, and that is what makes him so iconic. Today I want to talk about why Colin Firth is the definitive Darcy, and how these two performances speak to each other across time. In the 1995 adaptation of Pride and Prejudice, Colin Firth gives us the Mr. Darcy that generations had only imagined on the page. He is all reserve and restraint. He stands stiffly in ballrooms, barely able to meet Lizzie's eyes. He glares, he broods, he can hardly speak without tripping over his own sense of propriety. And yet, behind that formality is something raw and aching. Firth plays Darcy as a man uncomfortable in his own skin, desperate to do right but too proud to bend, too used to privilege to understand how others see him. When he first proposes to Lizzie, insulting her even as he declares his love, he is completely undone by her rejection. His transformation, learning humility, choosing vulnerability, making amends is what makes the romance satisfying. It is not just that Lizzie changes her mind, it is that Darcy changes himself. There is a reason that adaptation became so beloved. It took Austen's subtle, often internal prose and made it vividly human. Every flicker of emotion on Firth's face is hard-won. Every tight jaw and swallowed insult is an admission of feeling too big to name. And then, of course, there is the moment that launched 1,000 fantasies, the wet shirt scene. It was not in Austen's novel, it was a pure invention of television, but it cracked Darcy's formal shell for viewers everywhere. That moment when he strides back to Pemberley, drenched, vulnerable, caught off guard by Lizzie, it is the perfect metaphor for his emotional journey. He cannot hide behind propriety anymore. He is just a man, unguarded, a little ridiculous, entirely human. Firth played that with a straight face, but also with a glimmer of self-awareness, letting us in on the joke while keeping the character real. That 1995 Darcy became the standard against which all others are measured. He is the Darcy. So when Helen Fielding wrote Bridget Jones's Diary, a modern retelling of Pride and Prejudice, she did something brilliant. She made her heroine fall in love with a man literally named Darcy, Mark Darcy. And when the film adaptation was made, there was only one choice. They hired Colin Firth to play him, deliberately layering our memories of Regency Darcy onto a modern man in London. It is both homage and reinvention. But Firth did not just copy his old performance, he updated it. Mark Darcy is a human rights barrister, rich, privileged, and deeply awkward. We meet him in that famously terrible reindeer jumper, standing uncomfortably at a family Christmas party, making rude comments about Bridget within her earshot. He is, as she says, a snob. He is modern Darcy, judging not family connections this time, but lifestyle choices. He bristles at her smoking, her drinking, her humiliating career mishaps. He is embarrassed by her messiness. But beneath all that is the same sense of principle. Mark Darcy does not flirt with Bridget's friend behind her back. He defends the vulnerable in court. He shows up when she needs him. He apologizes when he is wrong. Like Regency Darcy, he must learn to humble himself, to speak plainly, to admit he was wrong. And like Lizzie, Bridget must see past her first impressions. Colin Firth is perfect in both roles because he understands that Darcy's defining quality is not just pride, but shyness, awkwardness, a kind of moral seriousness that makes him uncomfortable in easy social games. In both versions, he is terrible at small talk. He mumbles apologies. He stares at the ground, but he means every word. He would never offer false charm. He would never lie about his feelings. Firth's real genius is in making that reserve romantic. He shows us a man who feels deeply but struggles to express it. He is not aloof because he does not care. He is aloof because he cares too much and is terrified of being hurt or humiliated. What is so delightful about watching these two Darcys side by side is how they mirror each other across 200 years. In Pride and Prejudice, we see the classic arc, the proud gentleman brought low by love, willing to change for the woman he admires. In Bridget Jones's Diary, the arc is the same but messier, funnier, more self-aware. Bridget Jones knows she is rewriting Austen. She even watches the BBC version in her flat, and yet when Mark Darcy says he likes her just as she is, it is as swoon-worthy as any proposal at Pemberley. It is the modern version of what Darcy's love represents: acceptance, growth, humility, devotion. Colin Firth gives both these characters depth by refusing to make them simple romantic leads. He makes them complicated. He lets them be rude and flawed and vulnerable. He lets them be embarrassed. He lets them learn, and in doing so, he shows us that Darcy is not just a fantasy of wealth or brooding masculinity, but a fantasy of transformation. A man who listens, who changes, who chooses love over pride. That is why Colin Firth is the definitive Darcy. Not because he looks good in a cravat, though let us be honest, he does. Not because of a wet shirt, but because he understood that Darcy is not about being perfect. He is about learning how to love honestly. Whether it is in a grand English estate or an awkward London dinner party, he makes us believe in that arc. He makes us hope for it, and he makes us fall in love with it every single time. So yes, Colin Firth is Mr. Darcy, twice over. And both times he gives us exactly what Austen promised: a proud man humbled, a prejudiced heart opened, and a love that is earned. Until next time, keep your petticoats pressed and your hearts in peril.